Hello? Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, everyone. Uh, I'm gonna use this scene for a little bit, but welcome to KAGI Top Cut. This is the adaptive uh, format run out of the Sanctimonious server, and we have the semifinals happening today. If you've been keeping track of this, you know that the Sloppy Lab Work team is three of the top four in this league. It's a team that really loves adaptive, really has done well doing it, but as a team, they're kind of making a statement in several different leagues these days, having just won both the first and second place spots in the Keyforge Team League as well. But in this matchup, we have June, who is trying to throw a wrench in their plans of being all of the top two of KAGI as well. So we've got June versus Quickdraw in this match. It's going to be adaptive, best of three, some of the best Keyforge you're ever going to watch, and really two fantastic players. June just being an overall incredibly competitive and just solid player, and Quickdraw being an adaptive veteran for sure. We're going to take a look at the decks, but it's actually kind of an interesting situation we've got this time where I don't actually know what June's playing, and I don't know if June has decided yet. So we're going to look at Quickdraw's deck first here. We've got, of course, Dark Tidings deck, as Quickdraw is so fond of. Double Whirlpool, which is just his bread and butter. Got a lot of the other interesting things you're looking at here with Honors Kesis as a key cheat. It's going to be pretty interesting. Tide Warp with double static collection ray is very, very nasty. So this deck has the potential of forging keys for really like 4 amber often. If June doesn't have any artifact control. But again, since it's adaptive, game two, things are going to be switched. So obviously, this is still a tricky deck. You've got things like Triska, which knowing kind of when to play that and how is interesting. Tide Warp with the Hydro Cataloger. Are you supposed to play both? It's pretty interesting. This is a very artifact heavy deck. We've got double static collection array. We've got the Exploratory Craft. We've got double Whirlpool. Things like Tidal Wave are actually going to lose you the Tide. Double Netcaster, double Cocoa. There's actually not a ton of capture outside of these capture pips, so the Whirlpool's a little bit more interesting in this matchup. And honestly, the question will be whether he even plays them, depending on what June is playing. If June is playing something that is a little bit more capture heavy, maybe you just leave those off and just kind of make it a different game there. But as always, these are tricky decks to know how to play well, and interesting to see what will happen. Look at this quick. So Ambervac is one that could do some capturing. Again, the capture pips, most of those being in Unfathomable as well, is pretty interesting. But let's take a look at June's decks. So June was saying she didn't want to pick a deck beforehand, so she sent me 5. And we'll see. I think game is up already. Quickdraw's not in there yet. Becky is the one that, so June was actually in my pod when we played. June brought Becky, and I lost pretty handily, 2-0 to that. It's an interesting season for me. Becky just being a very, very kind of well-known deck of June's. I can't remember if this was a Vault Tour winner, Vault Tour or a championship. But very, very solid mass mutation deck. Pretty scary, especially with all the archiving and the one last job and stuff. It can do some really nasty stuff there. But really, this double draw pip Cronus, along with 2 more Cronus, is what you really got to watch out for. Another one, XC Shay. Lots and lots of draw pips here. Only 1 Cronus this time. No autoencoder, but with the Armory double Nels, this deck is just drawing half the deck on every other turn, basically. It's super, super fast. We've got a Worlds Collide, Arachnowalker, the Skeptic of Vipers, triple Chimor Eclipse, double Axiom, double Exhume with some Infernus, so much more kind of the Worlds Collide control you'd expect, but with actually good creature control. Barfield is a clock deck. Clock deck's very interesting, can make for a sort of solitary-ish play in the matches, but this one kind of has some interesting stuff going on, especially with the crop circles. If you're doing a lot of archiving with the TikToks, you can get huge crop circle plays. A little bit scary with the whirlpools, but if you're able to scoop up the thing you crop circle on the same turn, not too scary. And then the last one is going to be 1 more mass mutation with Borrow, double look over there, some break keys, and some sins there. So They got the game made already. Let's go ahead and see if June has picked a deck here. Okay, June has picked a deck. We are going to be in suspense. I think so. If I was going to pick one of these 5 decks to go against quick draws, I think Becky is the one I'd choose anyways. One, getting to watch June run Becky is awesome, but 2, I think it'd be a very interesting matchup. We're going to go full screen here. And make sure everything looks good on y'all's side. Welcome in, Amber Meaties. Good to have you here. And June just completely throwing all of those options out the door. I love it. And going for a Blorb Hive deck. So let's take a look at this really quick. It's a buggy deck as well. Very, very fun. Puzzling Trinket. We have no artifact control in the Equidon. Double scoop up. Psychic Network with the Blorbs is actually really scary. And a near future lens in the Sanctum there. So, doesn't actually look like a ton of capture in that Sanctum. So those double whirlpools might actually be really interesting this game if Quick Draw starts kind of stealing Blorbs. I don't know if that really helps him or not, unless he's able to just kind of get a lot of capture thrown on those. But the efficiency from those buggies and then just the threat of that key cheat from the Blorbs that just don't have to have Amber will be really interesting to see how Quick Draw's deck deals with that. Quick Draw, I think, we just tries to get through a lot of cards fast to find all of those artifacts, really get that static collection array threat going where your keys are just super cheap. This one, we've got a generous offer. We've got the Puzzling Trinket. Puzzling Trinket with the Whirlpools is actually very, very scary. I don't know that there's a ton of Amber Pips here, actually. We've got the Scoop Ups. We've got the Ornate Talking Tray. Out Negotiate. And then the 2 Retributions. So not a ton of Amber Pips for that Puzzling Trinket to use, but if the Whirlpool comes down, all of those Amber Pips can be turned into Capture Pips and then ship all that Amber to the other side. And then if it's a Blorb, it's useless basically for Quick Draw, and it will have all that Amber captured on it. So this one's looking a little bit scary. The Scoop Ups on Quick Draws against Quick Draws stuff could be really scary if that Triska gets scooped up, if the Espeon or the Eddy. But things like some of the Bounce, the Abandoned Ship, I don't know. This will be a really interesting matchup. I'm not sure which way I'd call it. I would probably feel more comfortable with the Blorb deck, but I've also hardly played Blorb decks. I feel more comfortable with Equidon. They can just do a lot of that efficiency. They've got some of the Amber control. Yeah, it's doing a lot of stuff there. Okay, so Espeon comes down right away. Both players might be playing this a little bit fast. We'll see. Both very comfortable, solid players. And there's one of the buggies, Shigeyasu. I don't know how to pronounce those. Shizniasi buggy and the conductor down right away. All right, Cloggin. Since you suggested, I'll just be waiting for that soundbite to hit my inbox. Peanut butter Phlox'em time. I love it. All right, so Quick Draw, not scared of the conductor. I don't think he has any creature control in logos here. So just getting the Anomaly Explorer down, getting some stuff in the archives off of the Theory of Conjecture, and getting some creatures down. So definitely some board presence, but you got to think, especially with a Tinker out too. Yeah, June goes straight back into the Equidon here. Going to get lots of efficiency going. Not going to gain a ton of Amber because of this reducing your Amber to get the draws. But that's another buggy coming down, and the Puzzling Trinket. This one is the one that makes token creatures. We'll see. I like that one because it lets you handcraft a lot more. You can get rid of stuff from your hand that you don't want, but when your token is Blorbs, that might not be super useful unless you're like really ready to get things going. Let's see. We've got a Force of Retirement hitting that operative Espeon there, just getting that off the board since it has the upgrade on it as well. That would allow some house cheating. But again, low amber count, but getting lots of these artifacts on the board. And I don't believe either of these decks have any artifact control, so whatever comes down is staying there. So if you saw my match, my adaptive match the other night, you know getting artifacts down early is very important. And so this seems like it's a pretty good start here for June. Getting some creature control out of there, really forcing Quickdraw to have answers for this conductor, and it doesn't look like he's going to unless he has one of those. There's the abandoned ship, so going to be some bounce at least to get. Ooh, actually bounces some of his own stuff, so getting some more capture. One more capture pip going to be coming off of that second Kakoa. We'll see where he chooses to put it. Oh, there's not another amber to capture, so it doesn't really matter a whole lot, but big line of unfathomable creatures here. You've got some tide control, you've got the anomaly exploiter if you need to kill something fast, so that conductor probably not going to survive when it comes back down. June sitting on a hand of 11 cards, though, is not bad. Could see some scoop ups here, could see more artifacts, Blorb Hive, Mark II Generator could come down. Ironic's Rebel is kind of interesting. Ooh, Space Invaders. So just probably going to turn those Equidon creatures into tokens just to get them out of hand, keep the cycle going, and start pressuring with these Blorbs. Again, because of that Psychic Network, if you're Quickdraw, you basically have to be dealing with these or have some other way of protecting your Amber. Otherwise, that Psychic Network can just wreck you. Because the Blorbs are elusive. They're only 1 power, but this deck is not like throwing around a ton of creature control outside of that Unfathomable. And we've got a Rebel here too to start getting some Amber pressure going from June's side. So Barb's not going to be able to do anything here unless June wants to fight. But we've seen not really anything. The Blorb Hive isn't in the discard yet, so you're not going to get anything back from that destroyed effect. I see you laughing, Cloggin. Does that mean you found a way? I want it. I want the soundbite. Oh, the Blorbs fight. Ooh, it's actually a Kaboom. Okay. So scoop up first, and then a Kaboom to archive all of those Blorbs. So that's actually a huge turn for June there. Not getting to check, but archiving 7 cards is going to mean a really big turn again. We already know what some of those are, so I don't know if that's... I mean, it's very good because it deals with Quickdraw's board, which needed to be dealt with. At least one of those in the archives is one of Quickdraw's board, and we see the Sierra Hawkins there too, which would have gotten a lot more Amber generation, but one of the static collection raised down, so Quickdraw is in check here. Some great banter going on, but June, I think, is noticing... Actually, I have no idea what that word's supposed to be. It's either frick or tick or something, but we know a couple of these are just non-Mars creatures that were put into play by the Space Invaders, so June might not want those back. Might just be holding on to those until that Psychic Network gets found in hand. And some Dante quotes being thrown around here. Pretty fun. But interesting decision here for June. 5-card hand because of the change from Kaboom. We know that there's the Rebel and the Harvester, but was there... So one of those Blorbs was not a creature from hand. But we know the other 3 creatures that were archived were Reverend Monk, the Old Tinker, and the Conductor. So not super helpful to pull those back into hand right now unless you're going into Equidon. Could see... Okay, we see a Sanctum turn. Haven't seen Sanctum yet. This will probably be a little bit of creature control and maybe that near future lens. Harmonic Ritual for 0 Amber. There's the near future lens. We're going to try to keep track of what's going on top here. We've got Getrudo the Arcane on top, but it's kind of a nightmare. Yes, Cloggin. Yes. If you actually do this, I will put that on a loop, and that will be the only song that will play on my intros forever. I'm so excited about this. But I'm gonna have to figure out how to. Oh, I can just do the desktop audio. So when this is over, way off base. We'll look at it in a bit. But Quickdraw does get that key for 5. June choosing not to take the tide there, which makes sense. Already on 3 chains because of the kaboom, and we know a lot of those in the archive are just creatures that are not going to be super impactful on play, so kind of a tough call. We've got Equidon coming back out now going to do some stealing, going to try to get to check for June. This Equidon turn should be pretty big with the artifacts down now. Putting the universal translator on the bottom, so that's going to be a steal for June. Get some boards coming down. We've got a blorb getting made, and then generous offer looks like it's on top. Oh no, generous offer getting drawn by the artifacts. I'm going to try to keep up with what's happening here, but the near future lens is just so hard to track. Ostentatious mount is on top. We've got a pipped up Gestrudo. Old Tinker and the Conductor comes back down, and we have the last artifact, the Shigziso Buggy. I don't think there's a way to ready this Conductor, so probably just going to get eaten by the Brain Eater here. Ostentatious Mount going to do some taunting, which actually, this allows June to move this, so could move it over to guard both of these. Yep, so going to do that. Just a little bit of protection on those, especially from that Brain Eater since this is elusive. And there's really not much ping, hardly any ping damage actually in Quickdraw's deck here. So that's actually pretty relevant to have that. Yeah, it is a pain to track on TCO. It's really sad because I have a 3x NFL deck that is stupid, but it's interesting to track for sure, especially when you start getting some of those scrap effects that like shuffle things back into your deck and stuff. It gets nasty. So there's only one here, and there's not too many shuffle effects. Interesting. So we have Call of the Void hitting the Old Tinker, so that, yeah, tells me Quickdraw has an answer to the rest. It does not put the top card of the deck. Like, it should show you, like it does the top of the discard, it should show you that card here, and it just doesn't. And I wish it did. Very, very tidy turn there for Quickdraw. We're going to see still no whirlpools happening, but some amber control with the capture, sleep with the fishes, and then just clearing up that board of all those Equidon creatures. Getting bounced again, is that right? Yeah, Tidal Wave is going to bounce them back to hand, but still going to stop that buggy combo from going again. We do see the Blorb Hive finally coming down. We'll see if this can actually start doing some Blorb stuff with this deck. But this is a pretty nasty lineup of artifacts. When you have this many out on the board, it really starts making your deck more efficient, especially when one of them is something like this buggy that lets you draw. And you're making things tokens. Near Future Lens is going to play the Scoop Up, which doesn't hit any of June's stuff, but is going to pick up Hawkins. Interesting pickup there, rather than hitting the Brain Eater. Because the Hawkins, if you ever give that back to Quickdraw, that's like pretty good chance to give him some amber back. We do see the Psychic Network there, only hitting for 2, but again, now that the deck is so small and we do get the redraw. Oh, that's after the redraw, so don't really have to be worried about the Psychic Network anymore. June shooting up to 9 amber though, with some Blorbs on the field and the Blorb Hive ready to go. And we've got a Grand Melee on top, so something that Quickdraw has to be aware of as well. Let's see what options Quickdraw has. All of your Unfathomable stuff kind of got taken off the board, except for the Netcaster. Could do a little bit with Logos, but I haven't seen much Star Alliance. Got to think, yeah, we're going to see some Star Alliance coming down. But again, this deck very, very light on creature control, so being able to ping off these blorbs is going to be really, really tough. We do see Hawkins coming down for some value and some capture. Not going to be enough to stop the key. I don't know if there's enough in this deck to stop the key. Amber Vac would be too late here. We do get a dive pod on the Brain Eater, so that one is, while the tide is high, against skirmish. So this Brain Eater now has skirmish. If you're June, you kind of gotta expect she just goes right back into Mars. You've got the propaganda, you've got the blorb hive, you've got the generator. You can just make so many blorbs here. Don't mind killing the rebel unless you know you're getting the kaboom back pretty soon, which we could also see that come down as well. I cannot wait to listen to that Cloggin. I'm sure it's so bad and so good. Okay, Retribution on top of the deck now for the near future lens. Not going to be very useful, but what's nice about being able to make tokens is that allows you to basically turn things into tokens that you don't want, and then you can see with the near future lens what's next and try to dig for something else. So we got lots of tokens now. We're sitting at 6. Blorb Hive needs 10. So this would make 2 more to get us to 8. And see what happens, because you can do, well, you don't want to do the Blorb Hive until you know you can make 10. That's kind of the issue. But a Reap with the Harvester also puts you to check here anyways. Quickdraw also at check, again with the Static Collection Array. Only need 5 for the check. And there's the Blorb Hive, so not going to be able to get to 10 this turn. But again, if you're Quickdraw, do you have any answers to this massive board of blorbs? It's something you kind of don't have to deal with too often. And we do see the tide getting taken by June there just to stop Quickdraw's key. And it feels a little bit late for that to be as impactful. As we can see, June is in check for key 2. And Quickdraw does do the whirlpools, but this is going to be a free key for June here just by going Mars and doing the blorbs. Yeah, and we're going to see that really quick, goes right back into it. Pops the generator to make another. And there are enough cards in the deck, which is always an important thing to watch when you're running the tokens. Make sure you actually have enough cards left to generate the tokens you need. And that will be a key off the Blorb Hive. So we saw a Blorb key, which is super fun. You don't get to see those very often these days. We did see the Whirlpools come down, but a little bit late. And again, it didn't really seem like Quickdraw's deck is super tied to those, but we'll see how it goes on the flip side. This DT deck, to me, feels a little bit clunky. I know that's kind of what Quickdraw wants it to feel like for his opponents, being very practiced with them, knowing how to handcraft and really get the most out of your turns, and knowing when to do what houses and stuff with these can be really tricky, but we are off to game 2 again. Since this is the KAGI League, whichever deck wins game 1, or basically decks always have the same order. So the World's Winds of Exchange deck went first in game 1, and so now it is going first game 2, and if it wins, it will go first game 3, but we do see the Near Future Lens come down right away, revealing the Space Invaders as well. So a chance for Quickdraw to get lots of efficiency this turn if he wants to go into... if he wants to ditch some not very useful creatures from hand. We saw very little Sanctum last game outside of getting this Near Future Lens out. We see an early Tide Warp and Hydro Cataloger, so that combination is going to be really interesting this game. We didn't see that come down last game, either of these really, but this basically means each player is going to be getting kind of extra efficiency all game. But that also means that stopping keys when the Static Collection Arrays are down is really almost impossible, because this will always allow you to get the tide back if take it. It's actually kind of a weird interaction how that works. I'd have to think about it for a second, because if you already have the tide at the start of your turn, this would lose you the tide and then you wouldn't forge, but then I guess the next turn you get it back no matter what. So basically, like every other turn at least, your keys will be cheaper, but depends on if those collection arrays come down. But for quick draw, we get some Mars stuff coming down. We've got a Scoop Up, Blorb Hive coming down pretty early, and Space Invaders tokenizes nothing, so just playing it to get it off the top of the deck, I guess. Got the Exploratory Craft coming down. This is actually a pretty good one if you're able to keep a board. We saw that was a little bit difficult for quick draw last game, losing a lot to the Kaboom. We'll see if quick draw can find that this game before when he needs it. June going an interesting route, just starting to discard cards here. Espeon actually very dangerous this game because of the Tide Warp. At the start of quick draw's turn, that Espeon would allow quick draw to use one of these creatures without even having to call Mars. So actually a very good call there from June. Also discarding the Universal Translator because doesn't want to put it on one of these for basically the same reason. If you get to use one out of house, then you get to use multiple creatures out of house. All right, we got a Sanctum turn coming here for quick draw. Does not want to go back into Mars and start using this stuff and making blorbs. I think we saw like it makes sense because there's no artifact control. You're able to kind of just take some time to get the setup going with the Blorb Hive. We do see the Ostentatious Mount. We do see Grey Augur and the Battlefield Evangelist. And this DT deck really doesn't have a ton of creature control outside of the Unfathomable Tidal Wave and Abandoned Ship. So this could be really interesting for June to even find answers to this board. But we are going to go ahead and Blorb Hive and just start making the little birds. Okay, I was going to say I should make 2 blorbs. I don't know why only one came down there at first. Deciding which side to put it on. And again, quick draw getting the Tide there, and because of the Hydro Cataloger getting an Archive. June already on 2 cards in Archive. Goes into Unfathomable, so we'll see if we find some of those creature control cards. We've got a Netcaster, a Hookmaster, and a Seabringer. So Seabringer, I don't think there's a good way to kill it. Yeah. So just getting creatures on the board, trying to get something set up against this big Mars board. Again, we could already be seeing something like the Psychic Network here, which only 2 Amber for June wouldn't be super impactful yet. But things are going to start getting really scary really fast as Blorbs start multiplying, and this Mars is also just able to reap and gain a lot of Amber. You do probably want to find an answer to this Hookmaster. We've already seen 1 Scoop Up, which I believe might be one of the creatures in the archives here. And this Near Future Lens able to get one of the buggies down for free, essentially, is pretty nasty. It's not the efficiency one, though, yet, so we're not getting tons of draw. But, I mean, at this point, quick draw probably just keeps going Mars until he's forced into something else, because you're going to get lots of Amber here, you're going to keep making blorbs, and you'll probably still be finding some stuff, and you're getting to play the top of your deck off the Near Future Lens anyways. Takes out the Netcaster with the Beam Buckler, and it's an interesting call. Just doesn't want to get stuff exhausted, I guess. Netcaster can't hit artifacts either, so really it's kind of down to this Hookmaster to do the Amber control. Interesting call there. Obviously, Quick Draw knows the strengths of this DT deck more than I do, so knows what to target there, but it seems like a Reap is not too much different. I guess there's kind of the synergy between the Call of the Void and the Netcaster, but that's still a loss of 1 Amber. I guess it's net more Amber for Quick Draw. Forge with Blorb Hive for the win. There's probably plenty of people who have done that. I have not. I don't even own a Blorb deck. I own so few Mars token decks, it's maddening. For someone who loves Mars as much as I do, I think I have 1 deck with Mars tokens total, and it's an awful deck. All right, so as we said, Quick Draw just going right back into Mars. Gonna get... Oh no, it's still this turn. Turn hasn't changed, just doing more stuff. We do get the scoop up coming down, picking up that netcaster, which makes, or the hookmaster, which makes more sense. Why have the fighting happened, and then we get the rebel already as well. If Quickdraw has found like the kaboom at this point and is just holding it, this could get really nasty really fast. Welcome in, Mooseman, dude. Yeah, we've got some great stuff. Oh, and there's the kaboom. All right, so we're seeing very, very similar play pattern that we saw game one from this Winds of Exchange deck. Just very aggressive, and then getting a huge archive off that kaboom with the Ironics Rebel. Just creates one, a lot of amber, and the Blorb threat kind of in conjunction. And this DT deck just feels like it does not have great answers to what this WoE deck is doing. Information exchange there, going to steal one back. Get some logos on the board. So we did just see more of the creature control from Quickdraw side, except I believe one of the creatures that was archived by that kaboom was the Beam Buckler. So easy answer there to P.I. Sweven. If Quickdraw wants to go back into Mars, Quickdraw does get the first key there, forging for 6. Already on 3 amber for key 2. And yep, we see the Mars call, everything back in the hand from the archives, which does mean 2 different creatures. I can't remember what got scooped up at the beginning. I think it was Eddie. Yeah, Eddie. So Eddie going back to June there, which is interesting with an archive of 5 already, but we know the Rebel is in there, so that Rebel coming down between these 2 harvesters could be nasty. We see the Out Negotiate getting played by the Near Future Lens. Probably just going to be this Universal Translator to get some steel. Oh, but revealing the Psychic Network is coming next turn. It might be part of the reason it's here, though. Yeah. Players, same sentiment as us. NFL on TCO is a bit rough, but this is still a brutal turn for Quickdraw. Going to be able to get the double reaps off that harvester there. If you can't get down to 5 cards here, he actually won't be drawing that Psychic Network, but he will be able to play it next turn off of the Near Future Lens. So June kind of has to deal with this board now. Otherwise, any amber she gains will also just be gone next turn. So I would imagine we see Unfathomable if... Well, it's a tough call because you also need to answer this key, which is at 9. You've got some Blorbs coming out. This is rough. Rough matchup for this DT deck for sure. I'm sorry, I'm still somehow recovering from this cough. It's just like I cough like 3 times a day, and then at night I just cough my brains out and don't sleep. And then next day I feel fine again. I cough just a little bit, and then at night, done for. So trying to get over it. We see a Star Alliance call here from June. Just gonna get some stuff out of hand. Pulling the archives too. So Rocketeer Triska, what can that do? Not sure. We do see the static collection arrays, which are going to make these keys very, very tough for Quickdraw to stop. Tink comes down. Might actually swap with the Talmage just to fight off one of these harvesters. Yeah. Talmage having skirmish right now because of the dive pod. But barely getting to check with the arrays, not actually going to be getting the key because the Tide Warp is going to make June lose the Tide at the start of her turn. And Quickdraw is still going to forge for 6 here. There's no key cost increase. We do know that Eddie is in hand for June, but it just kind of seems like it's too little too late, especially with the secondary pressure of Blorbs that will probably be coming down. But we do know that Quickdraw can do the Near Future Lens to play. Oh no. one of these must have gotten turned into... Yeah, I missed that. So one of these is the Psychic Network. So no Psychic Network this turn. But still, this looks like a pretty tough game to close out for June here. So we'll see. Quickdraw having some quick connection issues. Cloggin, is this thing appropriate for me to play on here? I assume so, because it seems like it's just going to be really stupid and not bad, but just want to be sure before I play it after these games. Quickdraw going to Equidon here, so choosing not to use this Mars board. Gonna get the talking trade down. Might just see some steal happening. Do still have the generous offer in hand or deck, which could yeah, take out a lot of amber on June's side. This is getting us some more token generation with the talking trade coming down, puzzling trinket coming down, can do all kinds of things. There's a conductor, which is just another threat that June is going to have to deal with here. Score index. This is game 2. June won game 1 using this Woe Blorb deck. We did see a Blorb Hive key getting made to win game 1. And then we've got a DT deck that Quickdraw brought here. Double Whirlpool, but not tons of ways to get value out of it, but interesting with the double static collection array and Tide Warp. So, of course, it's Quickdraw. It's going to be a DT deck that's doing interesting stuff. But it seems fairly outmatched at the moment by this Wind of Exchange deck, which is just doing all kinds of stuff. It does have a Near Future Lens anomaly in there to just get it more efficient. We see tons of Blorbs coming down. So Quickdraw going to check at least 7 here and going to be threatening with a Blorbs. Big thing about this DT deck is it does not have much ping damage. So these Blorbs are very expensive for the DT deck to get rid of. We did see the generous offer there, so June going down to 3 amber, and then we've got the forced retirement to make another Blorb, and Quickdraw going to 9, but the amber vac here actually starting to do a little bit of work, capturing 2 amber onto this Talmage. Eddie comes down. There's no more big archives from the Hydro Cataloger. So might have to manually take the Tide. Could also have the Bilge Warden here. We'll see, but in order to get another archive, they're going to have to take the Tide to stop this key. Okay, so there's the Bilge Warden, getting the second card archived off the top of the deck. Yeah, 2 Incarnates. We talked about it a little bit. I think really the thing that is just so strange for me is that we get the top of the discard pile right here, right next to it, but for Near Future Length, it's not showing that. And I think that would just make it so much simpler to be able to just go down there really quick and just see it. This is what's on top of my deck and go from there instead of having to scroll with that text. But still very, very thankful for the TCO and the devs who have worked on it. Quickdraw going into Sanctum. Maybe going to get our Harmonic Ritual here, but I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Blorbs already. So, I mean, that's a Blorb Hive. Yeah, that's a Blorb key. All right, so 2 Blorb keys now in 2 games. Good stuff. What's going to be really interesting is the chain bidding here, which will probably go to... I'll have to go to a new game. But I mean, for me, I'm super happy to see Blorbs forging keys. That's not something you get to see very often these days, so I'm not sad about that. First game was not a 3-0. First game I think was it 1 key or I think it was 1 key at least. I know Quickdraw got a key pretty early. They both made games. Come on, team, let's talk. They're figuring it out. Yep. Yeah, I think one key is right. And definitely some amber. Like it looked a little bit closer game one until that Mars just took over, which in game two, the Mars just took over so fast and got so much value. Kaboom was a pretty big one in both games. Just the repeatability of getting to replay all those creatures and stuff, and get the Rebel in there for it was so strong. So predictions from the chat. What do you guys think on the chains for this WoW deck? We're already at 4 chains for June here. I mean, I think this could go pretty high. The lack of creature control in this DT deck just means this deck, this WoW deck, has so many options. So I bet we could see 12 to 13, 9 from Amber Meaties. I don't know. I think I've spent too long being conservative and then being beat by my own decks that I'm starting to try and bid higher. 10 minimum. I think, I don't know. It's just hard to see. There might be something we didn't get to see from the DT deck that, if it has a little bit more time to set up, would happen. But this deck just has so many different ways it can come at you. Like, even if you wanted to, you could just use the puzzling trinket early to just draw. You could get the buggies down to draw really early, and if they don't have the creature control, you could do that for a couple turns. Like, there's so many different ways this deck could just kind of blow up in your face, and it has decent stall stuff. It's got the psychic network. Okay, so June passes, giving the WoW deck to Quickdraw on 9 chains. Interesting. The WoW deck will be going first. I mean, the fact that it's going first, to me, I would be doing even more chains than that, because it's going first. Yeah, I think that's what we're all thinking. Egad, welcome in, by the way. But we'll see. See what happens. We've got first player should be set to quick draw here. 9 chains on this WoW deck. I think the trick is, if you get the static collection raised down early with the DT deck, and you're forcing the WoW deck to start taking more chains just to stop that, that's where the pressure could really come in. But you have to find probably both of them, and you have to have other ways of gaining amber. Like, this deck just didn't seem like it was generating amber super fast. We've got an old Tinker right off the bat. It's going to be some efficiency. If June doesn't take care of that pretty fast, but there's not single creature control very much in this deck. Ethereal Conjecture is pretty big there. Brain Eater, not bad, but it can't take out the Tinker because it's elusive. But that does stop a Conductor. If the Conductor comes down, that Brain Eater will be able to deal with it. There's the Puzzling Trinket. So again, possible efficiency. Shrewdo coming down, threatening some steal. So now if you're quick draw, or if you're June here, I gotta remember they switch decks. June's still on the DT. Is it worth fighting into this and getting kind of just another turn of not doing much? Hydro Cataloger getting discarded. I did miss that. We do see the fight from the Brain Eater. Gonna get a draw there. Gonna get the Tide from the Bilge Warden and get some more creatures on the board. So really gonna be pushing. This is top 4 doing Carnage. So we've got June and Quickdraw, and then the other matchup I believe is JT Russell and JDG. So we've got 3 sloppy lab workers in the top 4 here. June trying to be the only non-sloppy lab work to sneak in and kind of take the title from them, because they're really gunning for a lot of league victories this season. Okay, Quickdraw is gonna scoop up. Tough call what you scoop up here. Goes for the Seaborg, so gonna take out some of that creature control. Second scoop up is pretty good there. Gonna get the Eddy, but that'll be the whole turn. Opted not to do anything with the Puzzling Trinket, just taking those as amber. So wants to be pushing amber totals early here. You get a Rocketeer Triska with the Operative Espeon and the Bilge Warden, can actually do some really cool stuff now. Lots of combo potential there. We'll see if Quick Draw can deal with it, but that near future lens is huge. On 5 chains now, we're going to be up to 5 card hands. Near future lens basically makes it 6, and that 6th one is a key cheat, or is a house cheat. So, very, very strong. Grand Melee not being able to do much. Nightapult also is going to give some ability to creature control, but it's going to be a pretty strong turn here for June with the Espeon down and the Bilge Warden. You can do some interesting ping pong stuff if you want to take the chains for the Tide, unless she's got another way to change the Tide. Which there is the Biome Discovery, which I haven't seen yet. We do have the 3 cards in Archives as well, so this could be a pretty strong push. Going into Unfathomable, though, so just going to force Quick Draw to find creature control. See a Call of the Void, which is just going to hit one of your own creatures. Ooh, Sleep with the Fishes. Maybe should have done that in the other order, unless June wanted to kill the Espeon to get something next to the Triska. Yeah, so we see a Guildspine coming down. Gonna get a free reap there. Not quite getting to check, though, and still no collection arrays. There's still lots of artifacts to come down for both of these decks, and those artifacts are really impactful in these games. Quick Draw up to 5 card hands now, and again with the near future lens, let's see what's on top here. Textual Beam Buckler, plenty of good targets here. You can hit the Guildspine, you can hit the Bilge Warden, you can get some damage on the Hookmaster, and again, don't have to go into Mars. You could actually Nightbolt that in if you want to go into Sanctum. That doesn't help you a whole lot, but be interesting to see. Then again, you have some damage pips or capture pips or draws if you need them from this Puzzling Trinket. Okay, goes into Sanctum. We are going to get a Nightapult here for Battlefield Evangelist, so we're going to start making some Blorbs. That'll take out the Bilge Warden. What's up, Fledginator? Welcome in. We've got a pretty spicy matchup going. It's been a fun one. We've got a Blorb Hive deck, which has forged 3rd key with the Blorbs both games so far, against a DT Quick Draw Classic. Ooh, and we make a token and get a generous offer off the top here with the near future lens. So that's going to be tons of value for Quick Draw. The generous ostentatious mount, getting some taunt, probably not very necessary since, yeah, that Blorb is not long for this world with that generous offer hitting it. Still not getting super far on the cards there, but able to take some Amber off and get a little bit of pressure of his own. Still not getting to check, though, for either of these decks. Gotta have the 10 Blorbs. Always. Ooh, Dive Pod on that Hookmaster is pretty interesting, especially with both of the scoop ups gone. That could get really nasty. Again, killing off this Espeon was an interesting call. It might have been a mistake. It's hard to know. And again, Espeon can really backfire depending on what else is happening in the match. But that Espeon on the board with stuff like this could get really nasty really fast. Get the Hawkins coming down, getting some Amber. We've got this first static collection array coming down and going to 7 Amber. So even if... Sorry. Even if Quick Draw does take the Tide, June will be forging for 7. Could still see some Amber control. We still have an out-negotiate. Psychic Network isn't really going to do much here. So we don't have the Mars board built out yet. I think if you're Quick Draw, you really just want to get control of this board. You're not super worried about that first key. You just want to get, so kind of the board control under your feet and kind of just slowly build momentum from there. Yeah, Espeon is really interesting. We did see it get discarded last game, and I think that one was for sure correct. And I didn't really notice it until we started thinking about it. But this one, it might have just been a sequencing thing because we had the Call of the Void into Sleep with the Fishes and could have gone the other way to just exhaust the Espeon instead of killing it. But we'll see. We'll see how much it plays out. Again, if you're June, you don't have the Tide Warp out yet, so you don't necessarily want to be like losing the Tide and then taking the chains, especially when you have the draw advantage with Quick Draw being on the chains. We'll see. Do get the Equidon call. What's on top of the deck here? Harmonic Ritual. So Might be able to get some value off that if you have a couple Equidon creatures. We're going to see the Hookmaster get taken out by the Forced Retirement. That is going to give another Amber to June, but I think it's worth it. That's a pretty scary Amber control card there, especially with the dive pod on it. Okay, we're going to get the Harmonic Ritual and gonna take the Tide. So Quickdraw going up to 5 chains again, just to force that key through for 7 instead of the 5. That's a tough call. Is 3 chains worth 2 Amber? Probably. Again, I think key 1 is not quite as crucial in this game because you know the momentum is kind of behind this Woe deck. Wrong key. There we go. Now if June loses, we all know is because she forged the blue key first. We get a Unfathomable turn here. Gonna do some exhausting. I don't mind the blue key here, but you know, I'm pretty impartial to my key colors these days. Getting 2 captured onto the Guilt Spine, so this might be a Whirlpool coming down. Should be really interesting. We haven't seen those be very impactful yet. Abandoned Ship there is pretty big. Getting a bunch of creatures pushed back to hand, and then we see the Guilt Spine getting shoved over because a Whirlpool came down. So now that's a big swing. Tide goes back to June. Whirlpool coming down, shifting 3 Amber across the field. This is kind of, again, some of the stuff that we did not see this deck get to do the last 2 games, is really utilize the board and the Whirlpool to your advantage. I feel like Quickdraw should have more cards in hand here. Oh no, there's only 1 other creature on board, so it's alright. The Abandoned Ship bounced. Oh no, it was 2. Battlefield Evangelist and the Esquire. Whirlpool is bold with Trinket out. I don't think this deck actually has a ton of Amber pips in it though. So like, I mean, really what's bold is that you have creatures on the board and this was the only creature you shipped over. So Quickdraw is going to be able to ship it right back here, right? And then it's going to be on this side, so you kind of have to wade through all of these creatures to get it back out. So yeah, it's tough, but it probably makes Quickdraw at least have to do things a little bit differently than he would have wanted to. Yeah, right back and protected by Taunt. And we do see, again, both of these scoop ups are gone. That's a lot of the targeted creature control from this Woe deck. Forced Retirement is also gone. So it won't be too many ways to deal with it, but if you're June, like how much of this are you going to try to remove? We do see the second static collection array coming down. So again, this will be more chains for Quickdraw to start having to pile back up. We do get a capture going on that Brain Eater and shipping over. Quickdraw still unable to get that key 1, and June on check for key 2 at 4 key cost. Yeah, it'd be 7 chains taking the Tide. Oh yeah, you're right, GT. Could have captured more Amber onto, or at least 1 more Amber onto that Netcaster before shipping it across. Maybe he knows doesn't have too many ways to deal with it right now or to take it off the board. But I mean, with that universal translator on it now, you kind of have to deal with it. That's getting scary. So we could see a kaboom here, if he's been able to find it. What's on top of the deck? Conductor is on top of the deck. Xanthix Harvester coming down. Hesitation here. Ooh. I wanted to kaboom first. June being sporting there, did not have to give that one back to Quickdraw. And not necessarily something you want is to be indebted to June. Who knows what kind of mischief that'll cause. Okay, we do see the Kaboom there. Gonna be blowing lots of stuff up. Getting Quick Draw to 6 Amber. We do see the Rebel coming down. Honestly, for me, there's an argument for playing these two and then playing the Kaboom. We saw that kind of get a lot of value last game. Being able to replay this combo twice, but I think because of that, Quickdraw really wanted to keep this Conductor. I think that's really where that decision came from, is you didn't want this to be the card that was getting shipped by the Whirlpool, and so you kind of have to sacrifice your Mars here. But going up to 8, June does get key 2 for 8 Amber. Quickdraw going up to 9 chains. And then the Tide Warp comes down the next turn anyways. So this last key is going to be very, very difficult for Quickdraw to stop, because every other turn, key cost for June is going to be 4, no matter what Quickdraw does. There's no artifact control here. June only gets to 2. And we do have a ready Conductor on Quickdraw's side. But again, no Blorb Hive yet. We're not seeing a lot of the value, and only on 4 cards here. And we don't have the card draw buggy down yet. Let's see if we've lost it. I haven't lost any of the buggies as tokens or anything yet. Very conservative deck as far as token making until you get that Blorb Hive going. She's gonna make Quickdraw play an alliance. That is very possible. Okay, we've got the token making buggy. Again, probably not the one that Quickdraw really wanted to have there. But can give him some efficiency of dropping dead cards from hand. But there is the second one. The last one to do the drawing. That is going to get some good stuff going. And the out negotiate. So really going to have a nice kind of follow-up turn here. What do you out negotiate though? Probably Universal Translator. Again, not many pips in either of these decks. You don't really want to give any creature control back to June at this point, especially with very little draw left. So I would guess it's the Universal Translator. Sleep with the Fishes. Okay, that's fair. Esquire comes down. Looks like we're going to kill the Esquire to make a Blorb. And get 2 Amber for that. So going up to 6 here, we're going to get the Reap to ready these. So we'll get another 2 Amber off of this one that we lost one for. I'm not going to say the buggy names. They're ridiculous. It's the Amber buggy, the token buggy, and the draw buggy. Okay, so the Talmage gets blown up for the next 2 Amber. But only does that. Does not draw anymore. Very interesting call there. So Quickdraw must have wanted to be at 9. Ambervac comes down. We've got the Exploratory Craft. We got 2 Amber off of the Hawkins. So you have to have some Amber control now if you're... No, you have 1 turn that's safe if you're Quickdraw. Next turn, keys will be at 6 or at 8. Then the turn after that, they'll be at 4. So you have to find some Amber control soon here. I just can't for life me think of why. Maybe just to slowly drop chains. You don't want to get extra draw there. I don't know. That'll be an interesting one to ask, why he didn't draw those, use those last 2 buggies. Okay, so there's a Psychic Network to steal 2, and we do have the Ready Harvester here, so this is going to be check at least 7 this turn. What's on the near future lens? Grand Melee. would wipe the board here, but it also kills your conductor, which is not ideal. But at this point, it might be worth it just to stop this Ambervac from getting value. Orb Hive comes down. Yep, and there's the Grand Melee coming off the near future lens. Shipping it back. Check at 7 for Quickdraw. Yeah, so just having 9 Amber was more important than having 3 more cards. I don't know. That's still a tough call for me, but I'll leave it. Quickdraw wins. I'm not going to question. But we'll see. Still got turns here. So we did get a reshuffle for June, so we could see some capture pips coming in from Unfathomable. Gonna need 2 though. And one of them, oh yeah, there's still a second Whirlpool that has a capture pip on it. Takes cards from the archives. I don't remember, must have been 3 in there, so there was stuff in there for a while. There's the Sleep with the Fishes that we saw get put on the bottom of the deck. Gilt Spine comes down. Colia can't ready and use that this turn. Yeah, that's true. Quickdraw has the Trinket, which could be a capture if needed. Okay, there's a Tidal Wave to give Quickdraw the Tide, which means Future Self will get the Tide back. Sorry, June will get the Tide back at the start of return, which will mean keys are costing 4. And that does stop Quickdraw's key. Cost being at 6 and going down to 5 because of the captures from the Whirlpool and the Tidal Wave. But double Whirlpool is going to be very interesting. Harvester can't be used. That's pretty important. The real question is there any more Hips or Amber control left? We've seen the Generous Offer now negotiate. Could get a draw through with the Buggy if needed. Retributions have some pips on them, so we could get some capture there. We have to capture 2 here. What do we got on top of the deck for Quickdraw? Space Invaders does not help you there. The real problem is if you're using 2 Amber pips to send Amber back across, you're not getting to check. Because if you're going Sanctum, you're probably, I mean, you might have a creature you can Nightapult in, I guess. Something like, what do we even have left? Grey Augur, maybe? You do have 3 cards in Archives, but I think those are scooped up creatures from June's side. Yeah, I should have Grey Augur in hand or deck. We'd need that, and aren't your Retributions gone? Yeah, it'd have to be both Retributions, no? Must be missing one of them. Unless I'm missing something. Get an Equidon call, so we're just going to be drawn to see what we can find, I guess. Get a scoop up. Okay, so there's a pip. Oh, good call. Blorb could be one of those Retributions. Maybe we were a bit off on the chain bidding, but I feel like, I don't know, this has come down to a really close game. So we see the scoop up on top. We got Harvester, Gestrudo, and Grand Melee. So we're in Equidon. So Gestrudo is a capture, and then the Scoop Up is a capture. So could stop the key here. Gonna gain some Amber first, destroying a creature. That's fine. Except that's one of the creatures you could have scooped up because you don't want to scoop up this Krakoa. Because making a buggy doesn't help you. So you'd have to go Arcane, capture on the Krakoa, and then scoop up the Arcane, capture on the Krakoa. And that would actually be check for you. Oh, this is tense. Just trying to see what he's gonna do. This is a great game now. This is good stuff. Quickdraw being on, he's been on like 6 or more chains for almost half this game, I think. So being on 4 or 5 cards, he's never been to 0 chains, I don't think, this whole game. He got down to 3 or 4 and then had to go back up for the tide. Okay, there's a Gastrudo. Capture on the Krakoas, what I'm expecting here. I guess the question is, do you put some of it on the Blorb? Because both of these are going over. Yeah, so we've also got a scoop up on top of the deck, which you can play with in your future lens. Yeah, so we get a capture there. Oh, and there's an Ornate Talking Tray, so he actually has 3 pips this turn. So this should be a second capture here. And then, yeah, okay. So that saves the key. And then you scoop up off the top to pick up this guy and your Wycolia, I guess. But then the problem is this is coming back to you the turn after that, but June has to find more Amber control. And has to find a way to lose the tide so that her key cost isn't 8 again the next turn. Yeah, there's a scoop up. So we'll see if he does. Yeah, just gained the Amber off the scoop up. That's fair. Going to 7. Wycolia gets scooped up, so there's no Amber control there. It's okay. There's so much going on this turn, and we have no idea what's in hand for June, right? So still a lot that could happen. Again, Krakoa will come back over after this turn. But what's really important is if June doesn't have a way to lose the tide here, key cost next turn for her is going to be 8 no matter what. Ooh, we're going to get the Exploratory Craft drawing. Yeah, these artifact lines are crazy, right? We've got 7 versus 8. It is a lot of artifacts. But it makes it fun. I love especially these kind of artifacts that are so strong in game warping. Okay, we've got a Biome Discovery. There's a Hawkins with 1 capture. Ooh, put it. Oh, yeah. So Krakoa's going across with 5. Universal Translator. And there's Tink, and there is no way to stop the key. So Quickdraw takes it. Such a good game. Very, very well played by both players for sure. Super sweaty. Quickdraw says I'm kind of sweaty just from watching that. That was really, really interesting. But that does mean we have an all Sloppy Lab work final. Good job to everyone making it to the top 4 for sure. I think this was June's first KAGI League, if that's right. But again, just such a solid Keyforge player, so much game knowledge and stuff. It's no surprise she made it really far. The snail. The snail was clutch. So yeah, drawing that Gastruda of the Arcane is really what won the game because that gave a pip, but also something you could scoop up without having to pick up your Krakoa. So very, very good stuff. I like it. And such an interesting matchup. Once the whole setup was built, and that was kind of just what we saw from the first two games. The setup just came out much faster, but once this setup was out, there's just so many options available to this deck. No Blorb key this game, which is kind of sad, but the deck had other options, right? Even without that, it was able to do a lot. June doing what she needed to do to try and win this game, just getting lots of amber fast, trying to get those collection arrays, pressuring as soon as possible, so that Quickdraw had to keep taking chains. Just, I mean, like, so close. Just a couple amber. Yeah, misplayed the buggy by killing the other thing. Yeah. And great pressure with the arrays and the Tide Warp. Discard the Honors Keysis. I don't know. I guess if you get the Hydra Cataloger going early, there's a good chance that you can do the key cheat with the Honors Keysis. A best of 7 between these decks. Yeah, the 9 chains is what's really interesting, right? Because this deck going first and at 9 chains meant it was really almost like 8 chains, and we were all guessing like 10 or more. And we saw, again, both these players a little bit more on board with how good the matchup really was. Oh, the Keysis with the arrays, because the arrays can make your key cost 2 less, so you don't even have to get as much with the Keysis. Yeah, it's scary. We just didn't get to see it the first 2 games because there was just never an opportunity to get that much kind of efficiency going. Yeah, that's fair without doing this matchup a lot of times. Regardless, we had a fantastic adaptive game with some decks that, again, we don't get to see hardly anywhere else in Keyforge these days. These are just very interesting, very niche, very unique decks. Very fun, very janky, and that's why we love KAGI. I know Murph, I don't know if you're still around. Thanks again so much for running this league. I wish I was better at it, but I'll be here for as much of this as I can. Oh, interesting. So this is a deck that they kind of tried to get the near future lens with some other filtering and stuff going, which is really interesting. Thanks, Logan. Appreciate it. Streaming, casting, I don't know. I would probably be sitting here watching this game and not casting anyway, so getting to do it with people is fun, and I love doing it. Again, I wish I was playing. I wish I had made it this far. I got destroyed by JDG. I think you can go see that game. It's online. I also lost to June a lot, but peanut butter Phlox'em time. Okay. Yeah, Trinket is a ridiculous one. But love it. Love it. So good. So I don't think JT, you and JDG haven't played your game yet, right? And yeah, Quickdraw has a crazy track record on here for KAGI Top Cuts. I don't know how many that is now, but stick around really quick. We've got a very special. See, I don't think you guys can see that. That's fine. Very special soundbite coming straight from Cloggin. I don't know where he found this, but it's going to be incredible. This might be really loud too, so just be aware. Quickdraw's only missed 1 top cut out of 10, and I've only made it to 1. 35-second is where it gets weird, so I should cut it off before that, is what you're saying? We'll give it a try.
We're spreading on. Oh yeah, we're spreading on. Keep it screaming now.
Am I gonna get DMCA for this, or can I actually start playing this and this is mine. Budgenator 1 and 4 innuendos. We'll work on that for phase 2. But this is incredible. I will. This is good because I also have to learn how to do Dame midfield reference. I need to learn how to do more OBS stuff to start getting things like this in here. But does anyone here play? Oh, this is for sure. There's gonna be no other like starting page song other than this. I have to wait for the entire song to play. This reminds me of Geometry Dash. Sorry, I turned it down too far, didn't I? Like that. Somebody needs to make a Geometry Dash map for this song. Is there supposed to be a comma in that, or does that mean there are shitty lyrics coming? Or there's just no more lyrics? Oh. Beautiful. I like the stinger a lot. But this is just the best thing that's happened to my channel. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I've got plenty to learn on here still. Chopped liver, got it. Oh, thank you so much, Cloggin. Is that like just AI generated? I don't know how you even go about like making something like that. But it definitely said the words Phlox'em, which is crazy. Right? AI is incredible, but also terrifying to me. 60%. I don't know what we're talking about anymore. But anyways, not to hijack the amazing match that just happened. I'm going to try and get this up on YouTube pretty quick here. I'm going to get off for the night because it's getting really hot in this room. And I need to get some water and other stuff and try and get my throat not hurting before I go to bed this time. But thank you all so much for hanging out. Huge thanks and congratulations to Quickdraw and condolences June. But great game, great run for both of you getting to this point. And yeah, that'll be all for now. Thanks all so much for hanging out, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.